We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Danielle.
And we're here. Today's Wednesday. Is this Humpback Day, right? Humpback Day. We have half the week to go before we hit the weekend. And so in the meantime, we want to give you some information that will be impactful to your life and to your relationship. We are in a series on conflict resolution. And I think that this has been really enlightening for a lot of people because this is one of the areas where we struggle the most. We're still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to get on the same page. And so what we're talking about today are the 7 steps to marital agreement. Because agreement is a law, it's a principle, it'll work if you work it, but sometimes we don't know what to do or how to do, and that's what we're gonna unpack today. But listen, guys, before we get started, you know what it is.
It's time to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Make sure that you do it right now, and I mean right now. That way you will not miss a show. And also, we want you to share with your friends and your family to make sure that it spreads all across the world, which it's doing every single day, thanks to you. And we really acknowledge you for that. But you know, I feel like it's story time. Do we have time for a story?
Sure.
You know, when we talk about conflict resolution, we are always thinking that it's going to be some big, dragged down major issue, but isn't it true that the scriptures talk about that it's the small foxes that spoil the vine? It's the little things. You said it the other day, it's the small pebbles in the shoe. Those are the things that if we don't figure out how to work those things out and have conflict that resolves, those mount into huge issues. So I'm thinking about a story when Hassani and I, you might have heard before, we were in a car parked in front of Publix, and we were just having a conversation about you choosing organic apples over conventional apples. So we were having this whole conversation, and then it was time to go get the apples. Well, Hassani goes into the store and he gets what? Conventional apples. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
And I say, what happened? We just had this conversation. We were going to start using organic apples. Why did you come with the conventional apples? So anyway, guys, that small little thing turned into a heaping mountain. We started fussing and fighting, arguing in the car about the fact that somebody chose the wrong apples. Was it the apples? It wasn't the apples. It was really that I felt unheard. That's what it was. I felt like, whoa, I was talking to you for 30 minutes and you didn't hear nothing that I said. Whereas Hassani heard everything I said. He just didn't know that it was time to buy the organic.
Right.
Those are the conflicts that we get into. Go ahead, Hassani, you're saying right.
Listen, folks, how many times have you had a conversation with your spouse talking about what you gonna do, right? And then 2 minutes later, you back to the same old, right? So I knew we were talking about the idea of transitioning into doing things that were more organic and healthy, but I didn't know that meant right here, right now, because I'm about to get these apples and we about to get this snack before we have to go into this meeting. So I didn't compute and connect the dots that she was talking about now. We were talking about what we should do, what we could do, what we want to do, but sometimes it don't always happen like that.
And you know,
can I get an amen?
No amen.
Can somebody co-sign what I'm saying right now?
No, but guess what? We didn't agree on that, but we found something to agree on because we do not agree to disagree. So we found something to agree on. And that was that we will make sure that we are crystal clear about the intentions of our conversation. That's conflict resolution, right? You get into a conflict, and the interesting thing about conflict is that it doesn't really ask your permission when it's time to go into conflict, right? It sort of takes you by surprise. 1 minute everything is great, the next minute you're fussing and fighting. It's all about learning how to resolve those conflicts.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about how to resolve conflict, but more specifically, we want to focus on agreement. And that agreement is it's more than a decision. There's a process, there's a system, there's an approach that you have to take. And if you attempt to do the right thing, but you're doing it the wrong way, you're not going to get the results that you ultimately want. And so we want to break this thing into 7 clear steps. Some of these things, like if you've been tuning in, you've heard these before, but sometimes we need a reminder so that we are remaining on the same page, because we're quick to forget when we're caught up in the moment. So let's build a foundation for this, okay? So step number one to marital agreement is you have to create a safe environment.
Yeah.
And creating a safe environment really may look different from one couple than it does for another. You just have, I mean, there are governing principles that we all have to have, but how it manifests and shows up in your household is going to be uniquely different. And so one of the things that you can do to create a safe environment is being intentional in your conversation. Like some people come looking for a fight, because some people just love a good fight. Some people love to debate. You ever meet a person who just, no matter what the topic is, they're going to debate it and strip that thing down and come with their points and I'm not finished yet. And then they got 5 more points. It's just like, I thought we were trying to agree on something. Why are you giving this biographical dissertation, a soliloquy, a monologue? Listen, we're supposed to be engaged and you come up with 10 points and it's just like, I thought
Point
we were just
number
trying
one, this. Point number 2, you didn't do that, and you didn't. I mean, you know, what happens is when you're in the midst of conflict, you are frustrated, right? I think preparing the atmosphere is so key, because sometimes the person that you're angry with has no idea what you're talking about. Like you have not prepared them for what it is that you're so angry about, even though you might be angry rightfully so. So how you approach a situation, what do they say? You get more honey, get more bees with honey or something like that?
Then with vinegar, I think.
With vinegar.
Like
in other words, you just want to approach everything with sweetness, with gentleness, even though you're frustrated. Because guess what? When you go with that aggression, you never get the results that you wanted. Like you feel like justified. You're approaching a situation, you're angry, they were wrong, right? You never get the results that you wanted. But when you step back and you be like, okay, breathe it down. Let me go and ask some questions and get some clarity, right? If you come with that approach, now the person has an opportunity to explain, help you understand, or actually admit because you didn't come with the guns firing.
Yeah. Now, let me give you an example of how to create a safe environment. Think about if you want to be intimate with your spouse. You may want to create a romantic environment. So what does that look like? Maybe you light the fireplace if you have one. Maybe you play some soft music. You have some candles, right? You make sure that the bed is nice and it's well put together. The room, there's shoes and newspapers and mail and just stuff all over the place. You're creating a visual experience that, matter of fact, you're tapping into the senses of that person, right? You're making sure that the temperature's right. You're doing all types of things because you want an environment that's conducive for what you're trying to get into. So preparation goes into the act before you actually engage.
Right,
Likewise.
But babe, we're talking about conflict.
I know, but I'm trying to help them understand.
Okay.
You want to create a safe environment for a conversation. So for instance, I know, for instance, as an example, that trying to talk to you early in the morning is not a good idea.
I can't even hear.
But that's my point. So if I understand you, creating a safe environment says, I'll wait till she's fully up, maybe mid throughout the day. Your energy levels are there. You're in your right mind. We could break away and have a conversation where you're fully alert. Like a lot of times we want things on our terms and we don't consider our partner. But if you want the best from your partner, you have to learn how to create an environment for him or her.
I'm about sick of you followers, okay? Gonzalez is funny. Gonzalez is saying now Hassani is going in.
I'm saying.
Exactly. What are you talking about, right? What is he talking about? Now, here, let's bring this full circle, because what he's ultimately talking about is knowing your partner, dwell with your partner, and understand who they are. You need to be comfortable knowing, okay, my partner can't deal with things in the morning, so I'm going to deal with things in the afternoon, or just whatever their needs are. Like, really, if you really want to get to my heart, Hassani could just go and buy me a gift and be like, hey, babe, I got a surprise for you. Here you go. And then have a conversation with me if you really want to know how to set the stage. But know your partner. is the key, because it's not about if you're trying to resolve conflict and you want to approach your partner, it's really about creating that safe space for them so that you can say what it is that you need to say and get it off your chest, right? It's one at a time. It's like, double dutch. You got to wait your turn to get in between the ropes. And then once you get in between the ropes, then the other person will have a chance to explain themselves. And that's really what the goal is.
Yeah, it's just that simple, folks.
Understanding. Come to an understanding.
All right, let's go to the next point. The next point is agree on the problem. And the reason why this is so critically important, how many of you have had these conversations and these arguments and you've gotten into all of these tizzies and you're not even clear on what the issue actually is?
Right.
And so taking a moment to clarify and to over clarify by doing what? Over communicating. Listen, I understand what I'm thinking or what I'm hearing or the story I'm telling myself based upon what the situation is this true? Like, are we on the same page? I want to make sure that we're both addressing the issue the way it needs to be addressed, because sometimes I feel like we're from two different planets. We speak two different languages. We have two different dialects and we can't connect. So is this the issue or is something else the issue? What is the issue, Danielle?
Right. And give the space. Give the space to understand the issue, because oftentimes when we're in the midst of conflict, all the rules go out the window. Let's be honest. Like, you know what to do, but you don't do it. You ask a question, then you interrupt the person while they're answering the question. Now the person is triggered because you're interrupting. Do you see how quickly you can go down the rabbit hole? So it's really like coming with a certain level of temperance and tone in your voice and calmness and sweetness and asking the question with an actual genuine heart to hear, not to defend, right? Because oftentimes we're asking, but we got our dukes up. We're like, nope, that ain't it. Nope, that ain't it, right? And you're not wanting to hear the person. So you got to get to the point where you actually are open, hear what they say, even if it makes no sense to you, right? Sometimes what the person has an issue with you about makes no sense to you. It doesn't have to. You just have to agree. Is this the problem?
Yeah, and what I would do, right, is once you've established what the actual issue is, just write it down. Like, one of the worksheets that we take couples through when it comes to resolution is identifying the problem and specifically word for word writing it down to make sure that we're on the same page. Because a lot of times great points could get lost in a whole bunch of words. When you're just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, you did mention that, but I didn't focus on that because you were talking about 18 other different things. So when you're writing it down and you both look at the paper and say, okay, this is the issue, you then can begin to move forward, which then takes us to the next step, which is to discuss each other's perspective.
That's
right. So I'm going to tell you what my perspective is first, so that you're clear, and then I'm going to tell you what I think your perspective is. Because why this is important is because we attach different meanings to our spouse's messages than what they may mean by it, and we're interpreting and we're using all types of reasoning to try to piece this thing together, but we could be so far off because we're listening with emotional ears.
Absolutely.
And I'm feeling more what you're saying than intellectually understanding what you're saying, and the feeling I get doesn't feel good.
Right.
So my interpretation is XYZ. So I want to say, listen, what I think you're saying is, or what I think your perspective is XYZ. Now, confirm or correct what I think your perspective is. Then she will say, no, Hassani, that's not what I think at all.
Right.
What I think is, and then she'll clarify.
Right, and we've probably modeled this for you before, but there's a technique called mirroring. And essentially it's exactly that. Like, the person has the opportunity to make their gripe with you, right? And you're just in the listening seat. And once the gripe is made, you articulate back what it is that you understood from what was said. And then the person has the opportunity to either say, yes, that's exactly what I mean, or no, let me give further clarification, right? These are the rules of engagement. This is how we do it. You know that whenever there's a war in another country, they have rules too. There's rules to war. So we have to actually have rules when it comes to communicating with each other. And when you actually do that, now it's almost like you keep all those landmines from exploding. There's no bombs blown up. It's really just a conversation to get understanding instead of fussing.
Yeah, And this type of conversation you cannot have if you're currently in conflict. It doesn't allow for
Right.
it,
No, you can't.
because this is more of a mental, intellectual, logical dialogue
Right.
than it is a heated, emotional, fight.
Right, you're not
It just
fussing.
can't work.
You can't be hollering. You can't be heated all up in the chest.
Right.
You need to take a few minutes to calm down, both of you, hours maybe. Calm down and then reapproach.
Right.
And you know what? A cool thing to do, like you can have a space in your home which is the discussion room. Okay, and you can have 2 chairs, put 2 chairs in there, and they're face to face. And all right, we need to have a meeting in the discussion room, or the discussion closet, or the discussion corner, right? And that's where you go to have a civilized conversation to gain understanding.
That's right. And let's just say your walls are thin, kids are around, you don't feel comfortable. That is why Danielle and I would do drinking drives and walking talks.
With coffee.
With coffee, of course, right. Or walking talks. We would go for a walk and talk it out. But the point is, you want to be able to do that, because to your point, you can't be yelling, screaming, fussing, fighting, talking about, repeat back to me what I just said. I want to hear what you heard me say. And then what you said was, that's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. So if the environment is not conducive, guys, it's not going to work. Now, what's interesting is sometimes we're very offended by our spouse's perspective. I can't believe that you thought that about me. Like, we get so offended, and you never get to the solution because you're breaking down, you're emotional, you're in tears, you're pissed, you're offended by your partner's perspective. This is why we say, listen, we're in this journey together, but we have 2 different experiences. We're looking at things from 2 different vantage points, and it's okay that your thoughts are different than mine. And for me to be completely offended, maybe I think too well of myself. Maybe I need to humble myself and realize there's some stuff I do have. I do have idiosyncrasies and inconsistencies and contradictions and faults and flaws. And if anybody would know it, my spouse would, because they have a front row seat to my life. They do life with me every single day. They see me at my best. They see me at my worst. They wake up with me. They sleep with me. They eat with me. All of it. So they would know what's going on.
No, I do want to validate, because there are different personality styles, right? So, some of the heads' personality styles really just don't give a darn about other people's opinions. Right? And so you might feel like, how could you be offended by my perspective? But other personality styles are very highly offended by how people, or majorly concerned about how they are viewed by others. Do you see what I'm saying? And so, even eights tend to care a lot about how people feel about them. They may not show it. And so it can be offensive, but it's just something to grow through and get past. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you have major issues because you felt some kind of way about someone's perspective on you. Because of course you want to show up as your best self. And sometimes you're blindsided by aspects of yourself. You didn't know you were showing up that way. And so it could grieve your spirit, right? The point is that when your spouse is honest and transparent with you, telling you something true about yourself, to get to the point of acceptance so that you can get better, not, turning it around and making that the argument now that they have this perspective about you.
The truth? The truth? No. You can't handle the truth. So I'm not going to tell you, no, I need to know the truth.
And
then fine. I'm going to give you the brutal, honest truth. Well, wait a minute. I didn't say I wanted it to be brutal. I don't need brutality. I need you to deliver the truth with care and compassion because you care about how I feel. And this is where truth tellers oftentimes get in trouble because they're not tactful. They don't know how to present it in a way that is receptive.
Right. Iana says, LOL, that was me. I took a minute to get over myself. I'm better. It took a lot of prayer and humbling. Yeah, and that's the point. Like, whatever hurdle you find yourself leaping over, leap over that hurdle, get better at it, right? So if you felt the burn when somebody said something to you, okay, but you took some time, you prayed, and you got over it so that you could get to the conflict resolution. And that's the whole point.
Let's get to the next one. The next step is brainstorm solutions to solving the issue or the problem at hand. Now, here's the challenge. Most of us have become masters. In fact, we have our PhD in the problem, but we are struggling to even get a GED, a passing grade in a solution. And so most of your conversations are so problem oriented.
It's hard.
and you never get, and then like 2 hours later, 2 days later, 2 weeks later, what do we agree at? I don't know what to do. I can't figure none of this out. I just have no clue, because you spend all your energy in becoming.
And that's one reason, right? Spending all your energy in getting angry and looking at the problem. That's one. But the other aspect of it is that when you're dealing with somebody who is chronic at the issue, you do become fatigued, right? So that's a part of it, right? You're fatigued. So that's why you're out of solutions, because you've tried 1,000 things, and we've gone through this 1,000 times, and we've talked about it 1,000,001 times, and you're just fatigued and you just don't know. In other words, you feel like there's no solution. It's not true. There is a solution. You have to continue to move towards the solution. But at that point, you're just so tapped out that you don't have any solutions to offer. And that's when you go to a third party, right? When you're out of solutions and you don't know what else to do or what else to say, you've tried it all, it's all failed, then you go to a third party to get some help, because there's some things you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And listen, guys, for those of you who aren't or who are getting help, one thing that you can do, Google can be your best friend. Like, Google it. I'm sure you could pick up a gazillion articles and videos on how to solving your problem.
Right.
It'll get you started, because both of you are responsible for taking out a piece of paper and writing down solutions. All right, well, I got 5 or 6 things that I think can work. You have about 7 or 8 things that you think can work. So we're getting in a process of trying to come up with a resolution. Now, once we have that, because we brainstorm these ideas, then we want to negotiate towards a solution. So let's take our time and read our individual solutions. You tell me which ones you agree with. I tell you which ones I agree with. Now we have a merged, shared list of agreed things. So if you only like 2 of my 5, I'm not going to fight and fuss about why you didn't choose all 5. I'm going to zone on the 2 that you like. Likewise, I like 3 of yours. So now we have 5 collective solutions to solving this particular issue. And once and that takes time, because to your point, Daniel, we were talking about this, most people are so comfortable disagreeing on everything. They have to one-up each other. They're in competition. It's a power play. Ego, pride gets in the way. I don't want you to think that I agree with what you're trying to say. Or if I do, I'll take it, but I'm going to add a little bit something to it so that you don't think that it all came from you. It's just like we get in our own way to get what it is that we want.
So true.
True, right? It's true?
It's true.
Yeah, let's go to the next point.
What? I don't know what's going on. Are you indicting me? Was that me? Oh, me?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Because I own my stuff. I didn't know what he was doing right there. Did y'all get that? I didn't get that. Oh, because listen, own me if it's me.
It's true. So we're going to go to the next step. Now, once you have negotiated a solution, then you want to pick an option and take action. So we got these 5 steps we've agreed to. All right, well, let's start with the first solution and let's work this thing and see if it's actually doing something. But maybe it's good, but it's not good enough. So we need to add on top of it or combine it with one of the other 5 solutions. And we figure out, through trial and error, let's work this thing out to see what actually sticks. And once you have something that actually sticks, now you have a resolution to that problem, and you are in what we will call agreement. And see, the thing is, when you obey the law of agreement, the law of agreement has to obey you. So whatever it is that you want to do, agreement will work in your favor because both of you are on one accord in solving that particular problem. These are the steps, right? Now, once you've done that, the final step is you want to evaluate and repeat or replace. So let's just say the thing you came up with really didn't work, replace it with something else on your list, and then evaluate. But once it's working, then you want to rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. And now you have a method that works every single time.
Now let me just say this. Don't elbow me in front of the people.
Okay,
let me just say this. Jackie says the reason Couples Academy is needed is to help you dispel your instincts of how you handle your mate. Jackie, what? I gotta say it again. The reason Couples Academy is needed is to help you dispel your instincts of how you handle your mate. Your instincts. The reasons you respond the way you do in crisis. You and your mate need the Enneagram. Best assessment I ever took. Jackie! I mean, you cannot have said it any better. The instincts, how you handle
Yes.
things in general, are your instincts. You were raised a certain kind of way, your mama and your daddy trained you a certain kind of way, your siblings, whatever the environment you came up in shaped who you are, and you have instincts that are in conflict with your partner. And then Jewel goes on to say, I'm a very strong 8 Enneagram. Nevertheless, I've learned that my aggressiveness was hurtful to my spouse, meaning that she went to the next level. She learned that her instinct, which was to be aggressive to defend, was hurting her spouse. So she's shape shifting. And that's what we've all got to get to. The place where we're willing to shape shift. It can't be my way all the time. It can't be his way all the time. At some point, we've got to get to the place where it's our way. It's the team of we, not me, not you.
All I can say is that is a bomb drop.
And
right
it feels so good when you get in the flow and everything is just, you're accommodating one another. You have compassion and concern for one another. It's not always about you.
Yeah. That's real talk.
And that's the biggest conflict in most of these relationships, is that it's a self-centered situation where the person don't think about you. They're just thinking about them every day.
That's right.
And somebody gets fatigued and exhausted over it and wants to get out or starts doing other things outside the relationship to fill in all the blanks. We ain't got to do that. We're going to learn how to resolve these conflicts so that we can get to the next level in our relationship.
The 7 steps to marital agreement, guys. Soak it in. Have a conversation.
Soak it in.
See you tonight. We're talking to you, answering your questions. Remember, it's Ask the Experts, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But until then, love you. Be safe. See you later.
Bye-bye.